Because we're quite tired. Just what is a brief kind of introduction, but we excuse ourselves because we try to talk as well English as possible, but it won't be so easy. The stuff which we show here is just happened in a period where we did a special thing together with the people. Before we did this stuff, we worked as architects and worked in the domain of structural research and grid research, just to find out on the complexity of environment, how one could work it out with technical and geometrical means. But it led at a kind of a dead end because we just let out of this whole research problem the real life, which got then at a very at a special moment very interesting and very important for us. And so we just did a whole lot of activities just in the real life context where the complexity of life emerges just by the people themselves. The experiments we did in this period are partly presented here. We're going to show another one very shortly, together with these two. Jasper just will tell a little bit about the theoretical input of what is theoretical background of these models. Actually, we are working more on the, let's say, on the concept of space and of environment. We are doing a project actually together with a group of art students on this theme, which is called the environment as concept and experience, where we try to combine what means the concept or the theoretical and conceptual idea of environment and the experimentation or realization in kind of experiments. And it's supposed to be a very strange and very interesting project which will come out of. So this is just in short different phases of our studies and work, and Jasper just tells a little bit of these projects here.
The title of our advertising was reduced model, or the word reduced model occurred in it. And this term reduced model comes from Lévi-Strauss, this French theoreticist or structuralist writings. It's from the Savage Mind, and he means by the reduced model the artwork in general. And he talks there, for instance, about the Zen garden as a reduced model of the Zen philosopher's cosmos, and about for instance, the cathedral, the Christian cathedral, as reduced model in the sense of the Christian cosmos, as a picture of this Christian cosmos. And the important point about reduced model is that it works in a way that it relates to reality, but it reduces reality to a certain kind of operational quality. And I think this is our task, what we did in this context, in this real-life context with people. We tried to find forms of communicational structures through models that we can relate, that we had the possibility to relate to the specific situation people were in. And during our work on these models, we developed special techniques that have a certain relation to techniques of the, for instance, French avant-garde, like the cadaver exquis, for instance, this street model is as a kind of structural thing. It's a cadaver ex key in this sense, like it's a children's play, like you fold papers and everyone is doing drawings on it, and then you unfold it and you have a very strange kind of drawing where the whole figure that exists afterwards is very different from the elements from which it's consisting. And we did about this exhibition, or about the works we show here, an article in the Studio International that will appear in the next number. And perhaps I give some ideas about what we think about our relationship, or the relationship of this work to the art world, because we think it's a kind of research that's on the middle between architectural research and a kind of structural research that had been done in the last time on the art level. Especially in, we have certain relationships concerning our ideas, for instance, to the work of Joseph Beuys in Germany. But he is more doing his kind of artwork and having discussions with people and having actions with people. But I think it's always going only to a certain point where he relates to specific situations, but then he goes back to his own point and leaves the people in the situation. And there's another artist in London to whom we can relate in a way. It's Steve Willards, who is doing these kinds of social projects or artwork as social models. And a very important point for our work is the relationship between our kind of, if we can quote it like this, kind of avant-garde ideas in this field and the popular creativity of people in a certain situation. But perhaps we show now the slides and so.
Maybe just one point to this, what is it, two fields. Our creativity and popular creativity. We just, with this project, we went into situations where there were like conflict areas, either that people should move out of their houses, or that whole settlements should be destroyed, or that there was a big need in a new high-rise building area, a very strong need for a children's house. And in these situations, people are by themselves creative in some double sense, a creativity of resistance and a creativity of finding new solutions for specific problems of themselves. And so this was interesting for us, because there was already a kind of a basis of creative interests, and we got in these situations with our own specific intentions and artistic and architectural knowledge and so. And what was interesting for us to find out how these different forms of creative intentions and interests can meet and can join and can work out things which are as well good for the people as well as in the intentions or what we think would be good. And these models just show a bit of this discussion situation which happened among the people and ourselves. We had in all these experiments, we got very quickly accepted by the people, because we were just not talking of something or writing stuff, but we were doing games with them. And this was a very good way for them to express themselves, not by words, but by actions and by plays, by designing themselves or by building little things.
Okay, we start with this Wagenburg project. It means directly translated wagon castle, and it's a play in it was a play with about 200 children, a kind of architectural environmental play in a big suburb in Berlin, newly constructed housing development, where, for instance, Ungers built also big houses. And the children don't have any kind of house for their own. And so we started in the context of the Berlin festivity activities to do this kind of play and to present it. And this was the kind of poster for it. We only show this project that's not presented here to show a kind of work that's before these projects, and that's already going on for about 3 years now, and it will be probably realized, but it's not quite sure. Here we have only kind of structural scheme, how it works. We gave certain spaces, existing spaces like
wagons and a geodesic dome and some existing stuff and what is it? Material you could use and transform. These were just conceptual schemes for the government to get the money for the whole thing. It was not used after in the play. It was just it served another purpose. As well, this kind of little model we did. And it was funny because the government people at once agreed because they thought, yeah, this is okay, this might be something for the children.
This was the first phase of the play that the children had to do we intended that they should do kinds of body houses, kinds of extension of their own bodies. And in the background you have the Ungers housing thing. Oh, here we had... We had a lot of very different material that we used for this play. This is from kind of theater decoration that was later integrated. This is one of these wagons we gave them. Here you can see the whole area, and we had this geodesic dome and very different spaces that was partly constructed by the children, partly given. For instance, totally constructed this little building with a white head.
They started on building different at the beginning of a big fish mouth, or fish mouth, and there's other elements like a dragon's head and a Tarzan's house, and so just all the stuff which emerges from children's imagination, and parts of them just got realized during this play.
It was this kind of self-portrait. In the foreground you see the huge kind of dragon's head that was to make fear against the grown-ups, and also to give a kind of image of resistance against...
Yeah, it's just the elements together which formed afterwards in a kind of a revision, what is it, or revisited, something like that, or when we worked the project over, then we used wagons like this. We used the geodesic dome. We used the element of this screen here. This was supposed to be a kind of mountain, and we used this element of the dragon's mouth, which afterward got together in the final design, which is going to be constructed in the next part.
This is a view from the Ungers building on the side, and background.
This was what emerged from the whole game, and afterwards were different phases where we started to transform it into a design of this house so that it could be constructed. And we passed through different phases because we had to diminuate it. And this is like the version which is actually developed, and this is going to be constructed in this summer. And there you have just it's just now very reduced version, which just uses the geodesic dome and for kind of containers, but what the parents wanted to be in, because the containers just serve as a kitchen and as toilets and so, which is okay. And then two of the corners we wanted to construct these four corners, but they weren't enough money, so they left only this corner constructed as a big mountain, and this corner as entrance to the whole building, as a dragon's mouth.
But the construction process itself will be again done together with children in the parts that's possible. This is just a scheme where this what we showed before, this reduced version, could be this one, and it could afterward enlarge in very different ways. So that was this one Wagenburg project, and now we come to the other project. That's the second project in this exhibition. That was done together with a group of settlers in the north of this suburb where this Wagenburg project was. And it's a kind of tribal culture environment, the whole area, because these people are having their houses and their gardens, and it's an area that was built, that originated from the 30s, because the Nazi government gave some kinds of gardens to the people, and they stayed there and they built their own houses. And it's a kind of vernacular architecture that they did there. Only show some elements. And they have a lot of different themes, like for instance it's a kind of snack saloon in a Western style. And here's a man who's building little chateaus in his garden and running railways through it and having a lot of lights and it going on. And we did a kind of scheme together with the people because the Berlin government wanted to destroy this whole area. And we went there and we were very interested in keeping it or transforming it in a way that it could be, that it could stay there. And so we get in discussion with these people.
This was very fascinating because the people got the threat that their whole settlement should be destroyed. And the only solution for them was either just to do nothing and to get pushed out or pulled out, or to act in such a way that they did their own propositions. But the government sometimes told them, yeah, okay, when you want to do something else, then do it. But the settlers, because they are architects, they didn't know how to do it. And so it was just, they had the creative need of just proposing something new. And when we got into this situation, it was very fascinating how quick there was a kind of a link between their interests and what we thought of this, let's say, whole Berlin situation, what should be in this region. And we worked in a very in a very strong way together. That's one of the projects that's still going on. And this is
the important idea of this cooperation was that we gave an idea, that we gave a proposal together that this whole area should be transformed into a kind of superposition between the settlement as it existed and a park, a public park, so that the settlement should be transformed in a way that they had public spaces, public areas and houses and alleys and so on. And this was a play we did together with them. This was the second model here. We have not brought here. It's about 3 meters to 3 meters. And every one of the settlers was doing his own little kind of microcosm of garden and house that he was living in, and giving also ideas of how this should be transformed, or how it should be going on with this whole situation, and especially how the public areas in this kind of park sense should be transformed. And our special interest, here you see the people working on these houses.
Incredible, yeah.
And it was very funny, this whole model, because you had a lot of very different kinds of techniques. Some were very, very detailed and elaborate, and a lot of them were just from prefabricated even, and they only added drawings and so on. This was the flag of this community organization. And here you see, it was a situation in the settlement where they had a kind of festivity to inform all the people of the settlements about these plans we had together, and what should be done and how they should help each other. And in the background you see the plan that we have also in this concept plate over there, and we gave a copy of it to them because this was the first stadium or first phase where we introduced our ideas into this discussion, and they had to, and they related to our ideas and added their own suggestions about it, and we gave this plan to them, and they worked on it, they colored it and so on. And here in the foreground you see the model.
This plan here was given to a competition which was organized by the Berlin Synod for this whole construction stuff. It was the only counter position because all the others just did the high-rise building. And it was funny because this proposition won a prize, and this is because of special economic situations, which is not too difficult just to describe. But because of this success, the people got still more involved in this whole process. And the second part was then to do this model game. With this plan here, we just start with, let's say, 10 or 12 settlers. But in this model game, the whole settlement got involved, and we got in contact with all the people. And this was just a very interesting communicative element to get in contact with each of these people and with every of these problems. It's just now some photos from this.
The special interest in this project for us was and still is, because it's going on, to inaugurate situations where these people can really come to articulate their own ideas. In a way, because normally these people are oppressed if they have very, very fancy or very funny ideas about, for instance, transforming their house or doing a very strange fence to the outside or so. It's normally that the police comes and they say that it's forbidden or something like that. And we're working to a situation where it's possible that this whole area is kind of protected and they are completely independent, so that they have, the whole organization is in their own hands and they have to regulate their own ideas in this whole area.
There's now, after this project, is kind of an expression turning around in the Berlin planning government, which says something like areas which are designed by the people but used by the public, which are these passages and places and so among in the middle of the settlement that will say that the settlers themselves gonna design and construct them, but that they are used by the public, which is probably at least in Berlin for the first time that the kind of notion like that emerges. And what's interesting for us is that because we have now a kind of a basis of work there, because we accept it, as well, the settlers were going to exploit themselves, as well as we, or let's say some artists we might invite to do spatial things there, which are accepted by the settlers also. So this whole process, when it's going on, it might emerge some very interesting discussions and solutions done either by the people or by some artists.
Here in this picture we just had a very funny discussion that shows a certain point of problem, because normally architectural language is not understood by people, and these projects in a way are also about architectural language, or building up a kind of understanding between the people who are doing the project and the participants. And here, for instance, on the plan there is a kind of a fish, and this it's a carp. And the name of this little lake that we proposed to be there, because it had been before, was Carp's Lake, and so we did it in the form of the carp. And it was very funny how they reacted on this idea, for instance, and they accepted it. And this guy who's standing there and pointing to the little model at the end, because it was done before, he lives on this spot of land where we were drawing this kind of lake, and so he was very angry about it, and it was really difficult to explain to him that it was just thinking about it and talking about it and not actually be done. So he couldn't really understand the difference between plan and reality. Now we come to the street project. There's a street in in an area of Berlin that's nearly becoming a kind of a ghetto, where you have a lot of Turkish workers or immigrants, Italian, Yugoslavian people, and some students and a lot of old people living there. And it's kind of very anonymous street, because the houses that they had all been ornamented. The houses are from about 1880, and the ornaments, they were erased or torn down in the 50s, and now these houses look really like houses that were built in the 50s, and some between them there are some that still have ornaments. And in this street they were working a kind of political group, community action group, who tried to transform this whole street into a kind of play street. but they had too much difficulties with the government, and so they stopped. And we tried to continue this experience because the people were already involved in these actions, and we tried to go on with this and give a certain kind of different level. It's just a kind of atmosphere. It's a Turkish woman with a little child, and it's a bit like Anatolian atmosphere or somewhere in Istanbul. This is very much in contrast with this whole grey street. It's just a window in the middle of the street, and it has a certain relationship to this area we were talking about, this kind of popular or tribal culture with the settlers, because it's one window where one created to do a whole kind of garden piece in the street. And I think it's as a picture, it shows very clear in the way that the ideas of people, these kind of tribal ideas with drafts and all this German stuff.
Or at least just to saturate a garden where there isn't any around. So the only space they can use is the window.
And then we started in this place that we got from this community action group, and we made a kind of advertisement or poster in different languages to show the people what we were doing there, to give an idea about it. And then we started, we had a kind of video action group all the time there, so that the whole action was going about a fortnight, and at the end of every day the people could come and look at the video, what was going on during the day. And then we started with this game, or constructing first the elements. We had done photographs of every house, and we started just doing it on the street and working on these plates. And the people came and asked, and so we got in contact with them to talk about their situation. And also to talk about the difficulties of this street.
Yeah, there's in some way exactly this what it means, reality and reduced model. Because this is the real facade behind, and the reduced one, which you just can take away or can design in it, can do things with it. And this is what happened as soon as we got the model together, which show now the next slides. They started to handle it, to try to manipulate it. And this was very, for us, very good to realize.
People got very interested in this when they saw it was their own houses, or even the window where some of them were looking out and discovered themselves.
Okay, one of the first was just to occupy the space by sitting. And then they started to design. Some just started like they used to start on the ground, but very quickly they got, like this other one shows. They got to the walls in a first attempt on just handling it.
These pictures mostly show children, because it's natural that they were the first who arrived, and whereas the grown-ups, it was a bit difficult to get in contact, and some we got to know only by the children, and then we get into their living rooms with the models, and then we were arguing about it, and we were forming groups of children. There were involved 8 children groups and 8 grown-ups groups. And we were doing kinds of discussions with them about this street and about their living space. in very different areas. We had this shop where we worked, and then we had in the backyard we had some space, and in the living spaces in the Wohnung. This was, for instance, a Turkish group of people who are doing this very chaotic model. It's about in the middle of the street. And we also were introducing some sketches we did in these discussions to argue with them, with the people, about possibilities that would be there to transform streets, or what one could do with a street like this. Also, from this very pragmatic thing I showed before, even to these more dramatic or stage-like elements. And it was quite interesting how they reacted, and
we wanted to work two of them out in a very sophisticated manner within this model, but it was just a thing we didn't have the time, because we would have liked to see the people's reaction and discussions on it.
These were a little group of Italian workers who had a little restaurant there, and they were very interested, and they had the model in their window, and so that everyone could see what they were thinking about. Here you see the model in the window behind it, and they did this beach in the street. This from children's.
And each one of these sections here is telling his own story of the needs and the wishes and the dreams and some anecdotes and so on of what either the children or the youngsters or the adults want to be in the streets. We have after at the end we have a kind of a list where we tried to listen up all these elements which evolved by this game. And there are so many that I don't think that any architect would be able to imagine them.
This again is it's very curious because it has the Big Bang on it, but I only discovered it when it was here. This model was done by girls about 16, 17 years old.
Kind of a pop model. After about 10 days of work, all these sections, some stayed in the place where we worked together with the children groups, and the other parts just went into the houses. And we wondered, because normally Turkish people and other foreign workers, when they find something which looks like wood or so, they just use it for their own environment. But they all came back after 10 days, and we organized a small party in the street, just to put the model together and to see the reactions which took place. It was just very well. Everybody in the street came and looked and wondered and was asking what's going on, and they started to discuss on the solutions given in the model, and then later on what could be realized, or how could this activity go on. And this in some way the effect, because every model was done in a very, let's say, private way, private view of each group who worked on it. No group had to relate, didn't know what the other group was doing. But when you put them together, then the single result isn't so important anymore. It's just the complexity of all these lots of ideas who jump into the eyes. This is this cadaver is key effect, which Jasper told of.
Here you can see very good the difference between these kinds of very serious models with these sparking areas here and very straight done, and these children's models that were just using the space in their own way.
Just a little story to this thing here. This model section was given to a children's group in this high-rise area where we do this other Wagenburg project. And we took the kids once to the street and they talked to these other children and so. And then they made an own proposition, and it's very important the way they did it, because they thought or they realized that the children in the street don't have, there aren't baths, there aren't good sanitary facilities and so. And they proposed a big, beautiful bath, and they just stood it in the middle of the street so that every kid could use it. And this is, I think, it's a very critical proposition. But there are lots of little stories like that. Now this is kind of a list we made after this play. After this game, and we gave it to the inhabitants who didn't participate in the action, and they just should sign their suggestions what they wanted the street should look like. It was kind of a second step of this action. And they can see a little bit, well, okay, it's just all in German, but the signs are quite clear. The richness of all these propositions given.
And it's, the action is first it was meant as a kind of manifesto in a way that normally one says that, or for instance, normally political groups who are working in this area, they are not interested in this kind of problems, like like for instance these examples that the people have done in the street, and they reacted in a very strange way sometimes. But I think it's very important that this aspect of the game could come to the minds of the people and also to the minds of architects. What people are doing if they have the possibility to project their ideas into such kind of public spaces. And the project will go on by the competition that actually is given by the Senate in Berlin, and it's called Strategies for Kreuzberg. Kreuzberg is this area, and it was partly inaugurated by our experience, because the people saw it. And it was very, very well done in the press and in the local media, television, so that they all saw these pictures. And afterwards they did this competition, and it's still running in Berlin.
It's for the first time that there's let's say, a kind of a planning competition given out by the Senate, which doesn't address in first line to the planners and architects, but in first line to the people themselves, to activist groups and to individuals. Yeah, right. I realized just before we came here to Berlin, to London, that there were about 600 individuals or groups who are going to participate in this competition, and just all spread all over the Kreuzberg area, which I think might come up very, very curious propositions.
This only as a last picture. It was there was an article about Berlin and the cultural situation in one of the biggest German newspapers, Der Stern, and they used it as a kind of cover for the situation. And I think it's this is also a very important point, that these kinds of models can work on very different levels. They can work into a political context. They can work on a kind of architectural context, and they also can work in this kind of public context. Also, yeah.
Okay. This was the show. I think we repeated some of the words a lot. I listened to it, but it's very difficult for us to express in English. Thank you.
No, it's very impressive, John. We just have two questions. In England, we've had over the last few years, problem public participation in planning. The GLC has been involved in one or two projects. But usually, their involvement is to do with architects, planners, having a dialogue with those people, always, the official side and the public side. And in your first project, you've shown involves settlement. It seems that everybody in settlement has a say, and it seems, I don't know, the impression I get from the description that you both played a very low profile and allow people to have maximum say. Or am I just wrong there?
No, I think this was very important, that they have a maximum possibility for articulation.
But you see, there's not a problem with participation program like this. To do with also education, or educating people about the problem of planning for a large number of people, and there's some issues which they have to know about, safety issues, privacy, and so on. And how do you communicate that to them?
This was possible because you had in this settlement, you have always, like in this kind of social groups, you have always some kinds of specialists who know a bit more about it and who can communicate it to the people. And so we had the settlers organization. In the settlers organization, the people who organized meetings and so on, there were some people who knew about it and who could, on their own committee sessions, or where all the people gathered, they could inform the people about it, and they had discussions.
So they had their own committee.
Yeah.
They have committee meetings.
They are sure they are from our side. What's meaning all this technical and financial and organizational and this infrastructural stuff you have to think of by doing kind of a bigger planning. This is what they accept now, that it should come from us, but the first step was that they accepted us as let's say as experts, which is very difficult to get accepted by the people. Now we are, which we didn't intend to be, we are their architects. So whenever there's something, they phone us, and we have to organize in some way the job. And this is when problems like that evolve, then it's our job just to inform them about difficulties. And there are still, okay, there are lots of discussions, because some people don't like this, or some people won't do this because it's too expensive, or it causes too much problem. This is a whole process of just interrelating or intercommunications, which is in these cases just going on.
Did you ever see a scheme by Ralph Erskine in some northern part of Canada? I think one of Erskine States. Well, he did he gave a lecture in the year. He demonstrated the problem he had, because he was given this vast site by the side of a lake where there's an Eskimo settlement. Well, he felt that he doesn't know very much about the Eskimo lifestyle or their own relationship with nature, but he felt he could consult them. And they came up with a series of problems about wind direction, sun direction, and so on. And in the end, he had to educate them about how to manipulate planform models. And they produced a series of schemes which he, in the end, finally adopted as a formal proposition for the Canadian government to use. In fact, when he showed the scheme, I think it was not finalized in the arrangement. But I think it was, in a way, parallel.
It's somewhat parallel. This, therefore, we are just wondering how this process is going on. There's only one important problem, is that when you want to start actions like this, you get involved and it takes you a lot of time. Just let's say arranging, organizing stuff, and sometimes it starts boring because we are still interested in a lot of other things, and therefore this is very important for this actual project we did with the students, where it's more the concept of environment and space which we deal with. I think is for our own needs or for our own research interests very important. This is all the time the problem with all these projects. You spend a lot of time on keeping it running.
Yes. One other question, how serious is the last project? This one here?
This one here?
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean by serious?
I mean, when you first went down to the street, you explained to people it's a game, or do you tell them this is going to be a serious thing, that they are being allowed to have a say how the streets are going to be?
No, this, it was from the beginning it was a quite serious attempt because nobody, not even the Berlin Senate, does know what to do with this area, because to tear it down it's impossible. There's too much critique. To renovate the houses, it costs too much money, and the owners are somewhere in Argentina or wherever. And they did some experiences in reconstructing, but all the people had to leave because it got too expensive. So there's a lot of critique just around, not only by the leftist group, but also by the planner section, but nobody does really know what to do. So we got into this quote to find out what people would like to do. And this is, we knew already for, well, we had a certain, feeling that this action would be in some way continue. Because the first step was this publicity, this action, because of this visual stuff and so on. And then the second step is now this competition they do, where we will put this model together with a whole strategy as one of the propositions. And I'm sure that they will take part of them. And then there might be enough money to realize, partly in some examples, ideas of this out of this context. So it's just the game. It's presented probably like a game. Okay, it was fun, but it has a serious impact.
So perhaps the question was also going on the point if we would, for instance, like or what it would look like if a real street would be transformed like this. Was it your question in a way also?
No.
Because I think it would be terrible.
No, I had this in mind because I was involved in the GLC, this participation program. And because the program was serious, people took on a serious face. When they came and were asked to make the statement or to pass the opinion, they always take a very serious attitude. Whereas here, everybody is doing their own thing. In a way that I don't know whether they were doing it because they think this is how they really want it done, if they were given a chance. Or they were doing it just because it's a game.
No, there was, for example, this, especially the vegetarian group, they got really involved in it because one of the men, he worked on our famous Kurfürstendamm as he was monteur of lamps, or what is it, of lighting. And there's just a lot of money put into the Kurfürstendamm to make it look nicer. And he said, why put the money over there? Because the Kurfürstendamm works. There isn't, you can't do anything better because it's just already okay and nice. And he said, just a little bit of this money taken, let's say in this street or in areas around here, and we could transform the whole area to a very lovely living place. And he was right because he gave very precise ideas on what should be transformed. It was, all these ideas were very extremely clear. We were wondering how this came, but okay, for an Italian it's very important to use public space as part of the living space. And therefore he was one of the, from the adults, one of the most involved in this street space, and the ends of the streets were two places. So this is, well, I think from some of the people, just kind of a serious impact too. And okay, for the kids, it's in one time. It's for one thing, it's a game, but for the other side, it's just an expression of needs, what they want to have, and what they want the street to look like. Okay.
What do you mean? It's the toy thing? Well, you know, the danger. I think in England that the people are very focused about this kind of thing, more so. You know, maybe it's because you're dealing with ethnic groups that don't have the sort of bourgeois instinct so much. I think as soon as you do get that, then you get very, very serious that people discuss at great length, the colour that they should paint the door. Whereas with these guys, they don't, anything is better than what they've got. But the thing that intrigues me is if you are working with such groups of people in terms of your own pictorial devices of explaining ideas to them and then them explaining ideas to you. I mean, they have to use a kind of, like drawings over there, very
essentially
crude, but you immediately know what they're getting at. Did you find that over the period of time that you've also found yourselves working in a sort of simplified pictorialization, which in the end you are unable to distinguish from you communicating with them? In other words, do you think it's had an effect upon your own abstract way of designing because you have to simplify?
I think it doesn't have an effect on the formal side of it, but I think indeed it has an effect on the amount of symbols, on the amount of images you get, and on the range of how to deal with public spaces, how to project spaces in public situations, and especially to deal with this kind of popular things, or this kind of popular creativity. Because, for instance, if after we did these projects, we did competitions, for instance, of an housing area in Berlin, and we gave some kind of scheme where we used these experience for the renovation, for instance, of an area. We said we had to inaugurate certain kinds of points or germs. I don't know, germs.
So it's starting for...
Yeah, starting points where there would be created this kind of activity. And between these points, at first there's nothing, or there is what had been before. But afterwards, the people get involved also between these points, so the whole process can be started. But you can do this only if you have this kind of images and this kind of reactions in your head, if you have this experience. So it's a bit difficult to talk about this experience on this kind of abstract architectural language level. It's finally another level. Or you have always to work on these different levels. You have to have interchanges and so on.
In some way you are right in the way that we have sometimes to take care of just not to lose, let's say, when we discuss with the people the design of the houses. we put in, let's say, our ideas, and then we find the reactions, and then they start to design their stuff. But I sometimes really to take care not to get too much in their, let's say, their vision of doing it, because they should do it. This is okay. But for us, finally, it's quite we are quite lucky just actually to work at the school, so that we can do other stuff to our students.
So you have a counter-influence.
On a very different level, which is just a counter activity.
Do you get some of your students doing similar projects or wanting to?
Yeah.
A student group is participating also in this kind of project that is given by the Senate now. And some students participated in the whole process also. And they were doing competitions afterwards and so on.
On theatre games, you often find, well you do find, that there are set games that you can play between people